Sadowski here at Coast Performance. We're going to take you through a little 10-minute mobility session, just to kind of get you moving, get you loose, and get you moving better. So to start, come down to the ground, start with a little bit of breathing. And we're going to start hands on the ground, forehead on your hands, and we're going to take 5 big deep breaths. As we inhale, we're going to inhale into the abdomen and the diaphragm, expanding the ribs, pushing everything up off the floor. After 5 breaths, we're going to come up onto our forearms, create a little bit of extension. We're going to squeeze the glutes, not super hard, but we are going to squeeze them just to give us a little bit of stability in our lower back. And we're going to do the same thing. 5 big deep breaths. We're going to press the belly button into the floor. As we exhale, we're going to release tension. When you breathe in, find those tight spots. As you exhale, make sure they fully relax. Okay, so from here, after 5 breaths, we're going to start. We're going to take 3 breaths. And then we'll switch arms. Good. After that, we're going to come up under our hands and knees. Toes are going to get dorsiflexed into the floor, so toes pointed in, not out. And we're going to do 4 hip circles each side. We're going to go forward and back. So I'm going to start with my left side. I'm going to bring my knee up, out to the side, draw a circle back, and then reverse. Extend, bring the knee out towards the elbow, back down. We're going to go 4 on that side. We're going to go nice and slow. Last one. So go to the right side, do the same thing. I'm just going to do 2 on this side to get us moving. Good. So from here, I'm going to take my leg out to the side. Hands are going to stay down in front. And I'm going to push back into my heel. Again, back toes stay dorsiflexed. We're going to work on stretching that adductor groin area on my right side. As I'm going back, I don't just want to sit and collapse. I actively want to push back into the hip. We'll do about 8 to 10 each side, and then we'll switch sides. If you want to add a little bit extra tension to this, what you can do is you rock back, you're going to drive your foot out. So you're going to have that type of a feeling that you're trying to rip the floor in half as you're pushing back. Find those end ranges. Good. Next thing we're going to do for a stretch, we call this the couch stretch. I'm just going to bring a couch. In this situation, I've just got a hip lift pad. You can also use a physio ball. You can actually use a wall as well. And we're going to put our back foot up onto this pad. And I'm going to come up into a half kneeling position. I want to make sure that hip gets nice and tall. I'm going to hold this for about 30 seconds. As you're doing this, two things I want you to focus on are keeping that glute tight, leaning forward a little bit to get a bigger stretch if you need to. And if we do that, I'm just going to drive that knee into the ground. Nice big deep breaths. Should feel a good stretch either in the quad or in the hip. After 30 seconds, we're going to switch sides. Again, as I'm stretching, I'm working on tilting the hips underneath, so I'm not sitting back. I want to bring that hip up, and I can lean forward to get a little bit more stretch. And the last thing that you can do is go arms out to create just a little bit more space in that rib cage. Good. So after that couch stretch, I come down to all fours. Just going to do a quick T-spine rotation stretch. So I'm going to take my hand by my ear. I'm going to tuck underneath with a little rotation, and I'm going to come up. And we'll do 8 to 10 of these each side. Good, 8 there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get into a 90-90 position. So we're going to go back to the hips. When we talk 90-90, we're going to work on an angle in the knee, the hip, and the back knee. All three of those are going to be 90-degree angles. And we're just going to sit here and we're going to work external rotation on the back hip. So I'm going to plant this foot and I'm going to open the knee up. I'm going to slowly come back down. Open up that back hip again. If you feel some tightness in here, what you can do is actually hold that end range and squeeze. Relax, come back down under control, go back into that end range, squeeze and try to get a little bit further. The important thing is we don't just want to flop that knee up and down. We actually want to create some tension, find those end ranges, squeeze and hold, come back down, and as always, you want to continue breathing into that position. Do one more on that side. Now when you switch, you've got a couple options. One, you just kind of spin around. The other way you can do this is to create a shin box. So what that is taking that knee up into end range. Once you stop, you'll place your hands behind you. If you can do this with no hands, great. But what we're going to do is just transition over to the other side. So spin around so we can get this side on camera. And I'm back into the same spot. Okay, so 90-degree angles. foot lines up with the knee lines up with the back foot. A little bit of angle is okay, we just don't want to get into that position. So I'm going to repeat on this side. Nice and slow, squeezing into that end range. If you want to add just a little bit of rotation with the upper body, you can do that as well. We'll do a couple more. One more on the side. Again, 8 to 10 reps each side works really well. Don't get too married to how many reps and how many sets. You want to go until it starts to feel a little bit better. For me, I've got a pretty decent discrepancy from my right to my left side, so I tend to spend a little bit more time and tension on my left to try to get that as close to evened up as my right side. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into a half hurdler stretch or a half 90. So we're going to take that front leg, we're going to keep it straight, and I'm going to take that leg, we're going to go back into that half 90, and I'm going to stay here. I'm just going to kind of hang out in this position. You're going to feel some tightness maybe in your hamstring, probably in that back hip. So I'm just going to sit here and breathe. As you're breathing, I want you to pay attention to tension, so that if you feel like you're kind of clenching into that hip, I want you to relax. Try to let that tension relax out of the hip, almost like that hip's going to melt away from you. Again, to challenge this position a little bit, if you want to come up and go no hands, you can do that, or you can go arms out. Rotation in. Now to control that, I'm going to lift, bring that leg around, and then I'm going to lift again, sweep, back into the same position. Lift, bring to our seated position, lift, sweep. Hold that end range, go one more time, lift, come back to the seated position, lift, sweep back around, breathe, come back, then we're gonna switch to the other side. So, same thing, you can go arms out, you can go hands on the shoulders, make sure we're seating tall, we're not hunched down, or you can go hands supported. So I'm gonna support, sweep through, and same thing, I'm gonna give this a few seconds. Breathing, being aware of where the tension in this hip is. Sometimes it's in the groin, sometimes it's gonna be towards the outer part of that hip. If you want, you can start to slide that knee away from you. Once you feel like you've got a little bit more space, we're going to control that by lifting, bring it back in. So what I'm going to do with this hand, if you do have a hand on the ground, what you're going to try to do is take as much pressure off that hand while still giving yourself a little support. So I'm just going to tint my fingers, kind of like my hands are balancing on eggs. So I don't want to crush those eggs. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of support. Come back through. So we'll do 3 more of these. Lift. Bring that back through. Lift. Go 2 more here. If you want, in this position, we can add a little bit of rotation. Lift. back to center, and we'll go one more. This one I'm going to do no hands. Good. Once we're back in that seated position, you can come back up, kind of shake those arms out, stand up.